Hello, we are just connecting to go live, so the content is coming up just right now. Just right now. So we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, as well as on LinkedIn. All right. So today's conversation is about the aspect of ego. Like, what is ego? Is ego a good thing or a bad thing? Does it really affect branding? How does it affect branding? And how should you approach ego when it comes to this aspect of personal branding? So ego is something that is difficult for a lot of people to define. I'll not talk about the dictionary definitions, but I'll focus more on how I understand it, because one of the things that I'm able to do is to explain things in a way that people are able to understand. But before we talk about that, if this is your first time here, my name is Dennis Mboro. I'm the founder of DSM Consult. We help unique businesses articulate their offer or their business and present it to the market. That's essentially what we focus on. Unique businesses, also niche businesses, essentially anything that is unique and that you're trying to put out there and you don't know how to put it so that people can understand. That is what we focus on. We also do trainings in that aspects such as sales, how you can present something to show that it is of a lot of value, and essentially to ensure that you're not underselling yourself anytime that you put yourself in front of prospects or customers. Now, let's go back to this aspect of ego. I noticed that ego is something that is difficult for a lot of people to define, but they're able to spot. Now, do you find yourself in this situation? Like, there is this person that you know that always has to be right. You're working with them in the office, or maybe you are in a fellowship together, or any other place where you are among friends. But there's this person who has a need to always be correct. There's another character rather, who has a need to always portray themselves as a victim so that they can be able to get attention. There are others that like to just zone out and say that they're not speaking to anybody because, quote unquote, they are introverts and do not want to engage. There are other people who just cry or get into a manipulative kind of a frenzy to make you feel as though you are the evil person for maybe, even if it's correcting or reprimanding or anything that you find yourself in a situation where you're having a conversation in some difference. That is essentially how they result in. So all these things are manifestations of a person's ego. And in as much as people look at ego as people who are cocky and dominant, even people who are not dominant also display ego. And the way that we can look at ego is a shame shield. Shame, something that protects you from shame. That's the purpose of the ego. So any place that you're going to be put where you are likely to be ashamed in front of people or your ideas, somehow your ego will just prop up and find a way to protect you, to ensure that you retain your position or your seemingly top position as whoever you believe that you're supposed to be. So when you feel like you're being compromised and you're going to be put to shame, the ego is definitely going to come out. So that's why we are talking about it as a shame shield, your shame shield. Now, the other question is, does this shame shield really work? If you want to show people that you are right and you speak with a lot of energy, enthusiasm, even bullying other people to prove that you're right, does it really make you right? And does it show or portray you to be the person who they should listen to? Or does it lead you to being labeled as a person who is always angry, or as a person who is not able to take correction? If you portray yourself to be the victim, does it make people want to, say, have mercy on you? Or does it make you look like a person who always wants to play the victim. The reason why the ego is a false shield is that people don't tell you that you are losing influence or you are losing them in the process of manifesting what your ego is about. I'm shifting, becoming a bit slow. Yeah, so people don't always tell you that you are wrong. What they do is that they keep quiet or they retaliate. But most of the time, whatever you're trying to achieve is not achieved by showing your ego, or rather by putting it out there with so much effort. So the question is now that we are seeing that ego is not like a proper shield, even if you believe that it is protecting you, how does this usually affect branding? So we talked about branding. We've been talking about it in a couple of episodes before, where we talked about branding as your reputation, like the reputation that you're continuing to build and how you're positioning yourself to get certain opportunities. Now, if your ego is always coming out and showing that you are the victim or you're the dominant person, you don't listen to people, will you get those opportunities? Definitely not. So what is the alternative to that? Or rather, let's focus a bit on that. So you will not get those opportunities because people will just ghost you, or they'll not want to engage you, or you'll not be able to get to a deeper level. And if you followed the conversation we had about branding being something that is authentic and showing the true you or the real you, because that's the person that people want to connect to. If you don't bring that person out, then people are not going to connect to your ego. So building a brand or thinking that you can build a brand around your ego is not something that even you yourself can sustain, because the idea of the ego is based on a perception or a concept of self that you have created, that you believe is supposed to be guarded. Okay? Yeah, and when you guard this concept of self, that is not even you, you end up undermining your own influence and limiting your own opportunities moving forward. So the question now comes, is shame a real thing now that you need this shield of shame? Yes, shame is very real. Shame is very real. You can really be ashamed. You can be, yeah, it's a real threat when it comes to the human person, the human persona and all that. But then the other question is, if shame exists, then what is the best way to guard yourself against shame? Now this may sound a bit crazy, but the best way to guard yourself against shame is to make shame lose its power. Okay? The best way to guard yourself against shame is to make shame lose its power. So that is to say, and this is something I learned from a friend of mine called Joel, a leadership coach. So if you have nothing to fear, you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to prove, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. I hope I've not lost you. You have nothing to fear. So if you're afraid that people will see you as bad, if you accept your weaknesses, then you're not likely to be ashamed because of that. If you have nothing to prove, like, yeah, I don't necessarily have to prove that I am the best person here, I know that I am, then essentially there the shame loses its power. Nothing to fear, nothing to lose. If you are so confident in yourself that you believe that you'll not lose anything by showing your true personality, then in real sense that also makes shame lose its power. And ultimately it enables you to show up as your authentic self and have deep level conversations, or to portray the real person that you are, that people can connect to and connect to those things that you are actually looking for. So we are still on this journey of ego and branding. How should you approach ego now as you're building a personal brand? The way to approach ego is to make that aspect of shame lose its power. For example, today, just right now in the course of this live stream, I was recording on a very good camera on one side of the office, But then again, the camera was not essentially working well. Actually, before the video, I took time to ensure that it is portraying me in the best way possible. I've worked on the colors, I've worked on everything that it needs to bring me out in the best way I can, because I want you guys to see this as quality content. But in the course of the video, the camera just chose to malfunction. Now, I've had to switch to my laptop camera, which is not in the best quality, but I know that if what you're listening to is helping you, then this is not likely to be a big issue. So I don't necessarily have to prove to you that I am a quality person by always having quality recording gear. I would love to have quality recording gear, but if the quality I have fails me, then there's no point of insisting that I have to continue in that direction. So it looks like now it's working. Yeah, no, we are back here. So I don't have to prove that I'm the best. I have nothing to fear. So if it just goes bad, I'll just go back to the ordinary video, and I have nothing to lose. Like, just putting this information out there for the purpose of helping you out. So the things I'm talking about now sound as though they are very simple, but when you start facing yourself, when you start peeling peeling the layers of looking at what it is that you are so afraid of, what have you experienced before, what is it that makes you feel like you really, really, really have to win, or you have to maintain this position at all costs. It's important for you to go through those aspects of introspection and to tell yourself the truth in those situations. And this is why I believe it is important to have a relationship with God. Of course, this video was not really meant to talk about this aspect, but I believe it's important for you to ground yourself on the truth, get to know the truth of God and what He desires for you, why He created you, and ultimately who you are innately and the value that you have. And with that, you are able to remove the power of these aspects of shame and to show up in the world in the best way possible, in the most authentic way that is going to enable you get the opportunities that are actually meant for you. Because we said that this aspect of personal branding is not just about the getting the glory, but it is being in the place where you can show up the best and operate in your full element. It is like a cheetah running in the wild more than it being caged somewhere. It is you finding yourself. Of course, if the cheetah was to go to water, definitely that's a gone case. But when it is in the wild and it is hunting and it is running on a flat surface, definitely there's nothing that can beat it. And essentially everybody has that aspect to themselves. And one of the biggest limiting factor is this thing of ego, this thing of, oh, I have to create this shame shield around a concept of self that is not truly me, that is ultimately limiting me from becoming the person who I'm supposed to be and live the life that is most fulfilling. So take time to think about this, to introspect, to pray about it, to deal with those internal issues that could be limiting you from getting the opportunities that you're actually looking for. And ultimately, with that, you're going to be able to be more free and have an ability to show up in the world in a way that is unbeatable, and even other people are necessarily going to notice very, very well. So that has been the subject of today's video, the aspect of understanding what ego is, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, how it affects branding, and how to approach it to ensure that you create the most authentic version of yourself that gets known. Then we said that if you want to know about authentic branding, there is a video just before this one. Just you can look at the lives that I've done. So you'll see a video about that aspect of authentic branding and many other subjects over the last couple of weeks. So for me, it's just to wish you God's blessings, to pray that you're going to be able to build like that authentic brand or authentic version of yourself, and you're going to show up in a way that you are unbeatable and operate in your full element. So this is, side note, this is a different topic altogether, but I think it's important to mention that this aspect of ego also contributes to the choices you make in your life. Like, for example, the course that you chose in university may have been as a result of how you want to be perceived by society. But then when you get into the course, you realize that it was totally not for you. It was not the right fit, and it does not have the opportunities that you actually need for you to succeed based on who you are as an individual. If say, for example, you want to be known as a mathematician, but you're not necessarily very good at math, you choose a course in university that is mathematical, and mathematics in university is mathematics on steroids. So ends up struggling, you fail, then you eventually find yourself, or even if you succeed, you find yourself in a workplace or work environment that you don't necessarily thrive. So there is a book that I wrote some time ago. It's now on Amazon and on Seller, just $3, about $4 on Amazon, 331 Kenya shillings on Seller, for the purpose of helping people choose university courses. Essentially, that's the purpose of the book, especially the young guys. 10 considerations that you need to choose the course that is going to enable you to show up eventually in your best element. Because some of us who are way ahead chose the wrong course, then found themselves in the world struggling to pretty much thrive, and we see our peers who chose the right course that was for them really thriving in whatever it is that they are pursuing. So yeah, like for me, it's taken me a couple of years to correct and find myself, but I really desire for younger people not to have that issue. So this issue of ego also starts out much younger, when you are choosing the course of the life that you want to choose. So if there's somebody who's been calling you, or maybe you are at that stage where you are choosing a course, please, okay, I'm going to add a link so that you can go and check out the book. It's not very expensive. It is read-only online, just for the purpose of limiting that aspect of distribution. If someone else needs it, you just share with them the link and they can download and read the considerations. And yeah, and of course make better decisions, because that's ultimately what leads us to having better lives, which are super limited. Thank you very much. Today has been a bit longer than I anticipated, but I felt it is important to share that information so that it can assist you to make better decisions, or even help others make better decisions. So work on your ego, learn to be more authentic. Listen to this video again to learn about how to approach it if you need to listen to it again, and recommend it to somebody who you feel this information can really help. So I'm back to the original camera, just like I said, and I'm glad that this topic has come to action as we were actually recording this video. So I wish you a wonderful week, and see you next Monday. And if you'd like to follow if you'd like to get this information much more closely, you can follow me on my WhatsApp channel and other social media platforms as well. So let me finish it from there. Of course, if you like what I said, you'll definitely find a way of reaching me or finding me online. So this will not be a very big issue for you. So have a good week, and until next time, I'm really looking forward to continuing to have these conversations with you. Bye bye.